Hey guys, how's it going? TJ here with Henry.
Hi.
Here with Dead History. We're actually filming outside.
Yeah.
We're actually, as you probably hear, there's a little creek behind us. We're actually at the Colts Neck Inn Hotel in Colts Neck, New Jersey. We're not staying here. Henry's actually going to an apple orchard this morning.
Yeah.
So we're meeting his mom here. So we figured, it'd be a good spot for us to maybe do a video like this, an introduction like this. We've never done this before.
Yeah.
So we figured this would be fun. And today is our next Vice Presidential Series installment, right, Henry?
Yep.
And we're taking a look at who, Henry?
Elbridge Gerry.
That's right, Elbridge Gerry. And what number vice president is he?
The 5th.
The 5th Vice President of the United States, Elbridge Gerry. Very good. But first, before we even get into Elbridge Gerry, because there is some cool things to tell you about him, Henry, tell the people what they have to do.
Hit subscribe down below, leave all your comments and questions, and give a thumbs up.
That's right. Hit subscribe down below. Leave all those comments and questions because we love those, right, Henry?
Yep.
And of course, give us a like and a thumbs up. And now we're going to get into the 5th Vice President of the United States, Elbridge Gerry. And this is
Dead History.
Dead History. Hey guys, TJ back with you, here with Henry.
Hi.
And the little creek behind us here at the Colts Neck Inn Hotel.
We have to climb down to get to the creek.
Yeah, we had to climb down this little hill to get to the creek, but here we are. Pretty cool underneath this little bridge, so pretty cool little spot for us. So, of course, yes, today, next Vice Presidential Series installment, taking a look at Elbridge Gerry. That's right,
The 5th Vice President of the United States.
That's right, the 5th Vice President of the United States, Elbridge Gerry. And we have some cool things to tell you about Elbridge Gerry, such as he was Vice President under James Madison. Another really cool thing about Elbridge Gerry was he was one of the Vice Presidents who actually, not only was he a Vice President, he also signed the Declaration of Independence. Yes, Elbridge Gerry did. That is a really cool thing. And of course, gerrymandering. The term and the word gerrymandering, that was actually coined and created by Elbridge Gerry. Yeah, we're going to teach you and you're going to learn all about that. Some cool things to tell you about Elbridge Gerry.
Yeah.
So, you did the likes, you did the subscribes. Hopefully you're leaving the comments and questions, right? And now, Henry, what do they got to go get?
We'll get the popcorn, the pretzels, and potato chips, and soda, and all that stuff.
That's right. The popcorn, the pretzels, whatever you want to snack on. Because here we go. Our next Vice Presidential Series installment here at Dead History, taking a look at the 5th Vice President of the United States, who is
Elbridge Gerry.
Elbridge Gerry. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Hey guys, it's Henry Said History, and hope you enjoy this week's episode looking at Elbridge Gerry. Enjoy.
Hey guys, welcome. TJ here with Dead History, and welcome to our next Vice Presidential Series installment as we take a look at the 5th Vice President of the United States, Elbridge Gerry. I am flying solo, of course, for the audio portion of this Vice Presidential Series. Henry, did the intro with me and did a little cameo audio for you guys, but I am flying solo for the rest of the audio. Henry and I, of course, as you saw, we did our introduction video a bit different. We did it kind of in selfie mode, outdoors. We've never done that before. We usually do it, of course, in front of a green screen, and then we impose images behind us of whoever the subject is we're talking about. You guys are used to that, of course, if you watch these videos. We've even a few times actually done our intro video at the person's gravesite. We've done that a few times. So this was a bit different. We thought we'd try this out, see how it looks. It's not something we're going to be doing often, but we thought it would be fun to try. So hope you guys enjoyed that new kind of look of a little intro video. to start off here. And a couple quick things real quick before we jump into Elbridge Gerry. First and foremost, if any of you follow me on Facebook, if any of you that subscribe to this channel and watch these videos, if you're friends with me on Facebook and follow me on there, what can I say? Facebook has gone and done it again. Yeah. So I believe this is the fourth Facebook account in a matter of about 10 or 11 months, roughly, less than a year, that Facebook has deleted on me. Long story short, my original Facebook account that I had since the mid-2000s, since probably 2006, that got deleted on me out of nowhere about 10 months or so ago. I made a new Facebook account because I wanted to stay connected with people. And after about 2 days, Facebook deleted that new account. Then I made a second new account, and I don't even think that lasted a day, and Facebook deleted that account. So then what I decided to do was I actually took my father's Facebook account. My father had his Facebook account probably for about 7 or 8 years or so. So I took his account and I converted it into my own account. I changed the name and the pictures and stuff, of course, and I kept my father's friends list, and that's what I did. I converted it to my own because I figured it was an established account and that would work. And it seemed to work up until today. Excuse me, my voice cracked. I went on to go on Facebook today and it tells me my account is disabled. So I did appeal the decision. So it is in the appeal process. We will see if I win the appeal. However, if I do not win the appeal, I will not be making a new Facebook right now. I'm not saying I never will, but right now I definitely will not be. The reason that these accounts, or at least my original one and this one, my father's old account, got deleted is, according to Facebook, they don't know if I'm a real person because my profile picture is my logo. Yeah, you heard me right. Because I use my Dead History logo as my profile picture on Facebook, Facebook feels that they can't verify if I'm real because my logo is obviously a cartoon image. Yeah. The other reason that I was given by Facebook is because they do not really like the promoting of outside websites, meaning YouTube. I did not know this, of course, but I guess Facebook and YouTube are not the best of friends. So Facebook does not really like you to promote YouTube links too often. I mean, you can do it here and there, of course, but I do it like twice a week, of course, every single week. Whenever I release a new video on YouTube, I post that link on my Facebook page so my friends and family and everyone know that there's a new video up and they can click the link and go watch it on YouTube. Well, Facebook does not like that. I guess they feel that it's taking away from their glory and their spotlight, I guess. So because it's an outside website that is not Facebook related, at least that's, at least that's what I've been told. So I don't know. It keeps disabling my accounts because I go against community guidelines, apparently. I don't ever put anything controversial on my Facebook. I don't talk politics on my Facebook. I don't get into arguments with people on my Facebook. It is not like that at all. I do nothing controversial on my Facebook. So I really don't understand how a cartoon profile picture or me promoting my YouTube channel goes strongly against community guidelines, according to Mr. Mark Zuckerberg, but apparently it does. So I just wanted to touch on that. If you do follow me or you're friends with me on Facebook, the reason you don't see my account anymore is not because I deleted it. It's because Facebook did. Now, hopefully, by the time I post these videos, I will have won my appeal and my Facebook account will be back up and running. That would be wonderful. But if not, you will not see me make a new Facebook for a while because I'm a little frustrated and getting a little tired of the same old song and dance with Facebook. So that's the situation there. Also, what else? Yeah, the new logo went over great. Everybody seemed to really love the new logo. Everybody seemed to love the new little intro video with our new logo, which I thank you so much for the feedback from everyone. Thank you. I will be picking a winner for my free t-shirt giveaway contest. For any of you that don't know, if you go to my Instagram, which is instagram.com, of course, /deadhistory1776. So it's deadhistory1776. That is our Instagram account. I was, anybody who reposted our new logo, I am randomly picking one of those people, just at random. I'm going to put out all the names in a hat and just pick one out. And that person's going to be the winner of a free Dead History t-shirt with our new logo on it. So if you want to be a part of that, there's still time. Go on and repost our new logo on your Instagram and tag us in it at Dead History 1776. And you have a chance to be selected for a free Dead History t-shirt. So we are also on TikTok now. For those of you that are on TikTok, we are on TikTok as well. It's under Dead History. I don't know if it's Dead History or Dead History 1776. I'll throw it up on the screen so you see it. But go check us out on TikTok. Follow us on TikTok as well. So there's definitely ways to keep in communication with me if Facebook, kind of bails out on me. You have Instagram, you have YouTube, you have TikTok. You also, my email address, I can give you guys that. That's deadhistorytjf at gmail.com. So it's deadhistory, T as in Tom, J as in John, F as in Frank, at gmail.com. So if anybody wants to email me, feel free. So there you go. Plenty of ways to keep in communication with me. I apologize for the inconvenience regarding Facebook. So here we go. Let's jump right into Elbridge Gerry now, our 5th Vice President of the United States, our subject of this next Vice Presidential Series installment. Here we go. The Vice Presidency had been vacant for nearly a year by the time Elbridge Gerry took office as the nation's 5th Vice President on March 4th of 1813. His predecessor, George Clinton, an uncompromising old Republican with frustrated presidential ambitions, had died in office on April 20th of 1812. Clinton's constant carping about President James Madison's foreign policy had him at odds with the administration. Elbridge Gerry, who replaced Clinton as the Republican vice presidential nominee in the 1812 election, was a vice president more to Madison's liking. An enthusiastic supporter of Jefferson's embargo and Madison's foreign policy, he offered a welcome contrast to the independent-minded and cantankerous New Yorker who had proved so troublesome during the president's first term. But like George Clinton, Elbridge Gerry would die in office before the end of his term, leaving James Madison and the nation once again without a vice president. Elbridge Gerry was born in Marblehead, Massachusetts on July 17th of 1744, one of Thomas and Elizabeth Greenleaf Gerry's 11 children. A former ship's captain who emigrated from England in 1730, Thomas Gerry was a pillar of the Marblehead community, serving as a justice of the peace and selectman and as moderator of the town meeting. The family was prosperous thanks to a thriving mercantile and shipping business and an inheritance from Elizabeth Gerry's side of the family. The Gerrys were also pious, faithfully attending the First Congregational Church and avoiding ostentatious display. Young Elbridge was probably educated by a private tutor before his admission to Harvard College in 1758. Like many of his fellow scholars, he paid careful attention to the imperial crisis that would eventually precipitate the American Revolution, arguing in his master's thesis that the colonists were justified in their resistance to the new prohibitory duties, which make it useless for the people to engage in commerce. Gerry returned home after graduation to join the family business. A thriving port and commercial center, Marblehead was a hotbed of anti-British activity during the 1760s and 1770s. The future vice president played a limited role in the resistance movement until the spring of 1770, when he served on a local committee to enforce the ban on the sale and consumption of tea. He was elected to the Massachusetts legislature in 1772 and later to its successor body, the Provincial Congress, serving as chairman of the Committee on Supplies during the fall and winter of 1774 into 1775. The historian Mercy Otis Warren, a contemporary, later recalled that Gerry coordinated the procurement and distribution of arms and provisions with punctuality and indefatigable industry, an effort he would continue while serving in the Continental Congress. Following a practice that was neither unusual nor illegal at the time, Elbridge Gerry awarded several supply contracts to his family's business. But unlike many of his fellow merchants, he refused to take excessive profits from wartime commerce, explaining that he would prefer any loss to the least misunderstanding with the public relative of interest. Elbridge Gerry was elected to the Second Continental Congress in December of 1775, serving until 1780, and again from 1783 to 1785. If he was, as his biographer George Athan Bilius admits, a second-rank figure in a body that included such luminaries as Thomas Jefferson and John and Samuel Adams, he was also a diligent legislator. His efforts to persuade wavering middle colony delegates to support independence during the summer of 1776 evoked paeans of praise from John Adams. If every man here was a Gerry, Adams claimed, the liberties of America would be safe against the gates of earth and hell. But like Adams, Elbridge Gerry could also be trying and impractical. Even Adams despaired of his friend's obstinacy that will risk great things to secure small ones. He was of so peculiar a cast of mind. Continental Congress Secretary Charles Thompson marveled that his pleasures seemed proportioned to the absurdity of his schemes. Modern scholars agree that his work in Congress was remembered most for its capriciousness and contrariness, citing the phobias against sword, purse, and centralized power that drove him to oppose any kind of peacetime army and any taxing scheme to raise revenue for the central government. But Gerry's biographer discerns a fundamental logic in his seemingly erratic career. The revolution was Gerry's defining moment, Bilius emphasizes, and the future vice president considered the signing of the Declaration of Independence the greatest single act of his entire life. All of his subsequent actions, inconsistent and idiosyncratic as they may have appeared to others, were driven by his single-minded goal of preserving the hard-won gains of the revolution. For all his commitment to revolutionary principles, however, Elbridge Gerry was no egalitarian. He believed that a natural elite of able and talented individuals should govern the new nation. As a member of that favored class, he considered public service a responsibility, not an opportunity for personal or financial gain. Like many of his contemporaries, he believed that the ideal form of government was a mixed constitution, incorporating in a delicately balanced equilibrium the best features of a monarchy, aristocracy, and a democracy. A constitution that inclined too much toward any of the three would, as Gerry feared, threaten the stability of the government or jeopardize the liberties of the people. This stance accounts for his seemingly inconsistent behavior during the Constitutional Convention and the ensuing ratification debate. Now on to the Constitutional Convention a bit. One of 4 delegates chosen by the Massachusetts legislature to attend the 1787 Constitutional Convention, Elbridge Gerry was, in his biographer's words, one of the most active participants in the entire convention. A member of the moderate bloc, he was neither an extreme nationalist nor a committed states' rights advocate. He acted as a conciliator during the first phases of the convention. As chair of the committee that resolved the impasse between the large and small states over representation in the national legislature, Elbridge Gerry made several impassioned speeches in support of the Great Compromise, which provided for equal representation of the states in the Senate and proportional representation in the House of Representatives. Soon after the convention adopted the compromise, Gerry began to worry that the Constitution that was slowly emerging during those hot and tense days in Philadelphia would create a powerful national legislature capable of jeopardizing the people's liberties and overshadowing the states. Although the convention adopted several of his proposals to limit congressional power, including the prohibition against bills of attainder and ex post facto laws, these provisions failed to satisfy his apprehensions. Struggling to save a document that he now considered seriously flawed, Gerry offered a motion to include a Bill of Rights and several specific proposals to safeguard popular liberties. The convention's majority disagreed with this approach and defeated each of these initiatives. On September 15th of 1787, a dispirited Gerry stated the objections which determined him to withhold his name from the Constitution, concluding that the best that could be done was to provide for a second general convention. 2 days later, as his more optimistic colleagues prepared to sign the new Constitution, Gerry explained his change of heart. James Madison, whose notes of the convention provide the only authoritative account of its proceedings, recorded the awkward scene. Mr. Gerry described the painful feelings of his situation and the embarrassment under which he rose to offer any further observations on the subject which had finally been decided. Whilst the plan was depending, he had treated it with all the freedom he thought it deserved. He now felt himself bound as he was disposed to treat it with the respect due to the acts of the convention. He hoped he should not violate that respect in declaring on this occasion his fears that a civil war may result from the present crisis of the United States. Gerry objected to several provisions in the new Constitution, including the language in Article 1, Section 3, specifying that the Vice President of the United States shall be President of the Senate. During the September 7th debate over the mode of constituting the executive, he had voiced his reservations about assigning legislative responsibilities to the Vice President. We might as well put the President himself at the head of the legislature, he had argued. The close intimacy that must subsist between the President and Vice President makes it absolutely improper. But he now admitted he could have accepted this provision and others that he found troubling had the Constitution not granted Congress such sweeping powers. Fearful as he was about the new Constitution, Gerry was equally worried that anarchy may ensue if the states failed to ratify it. He did not, therefore, reject it outright during the ratification struggle. Abandoning his earlier call for a second convention, he worked to build support for amendments adapted to the exigencies of the government and the preservation of liberty. Reviled as a traitor to his class by elites who strongly favored ratification, Gerry suffered an overwhelming defeat in the 1788 Massachusetts gubernatorial election. Still, he noted with some satisfaction that his state and 4 others ratified the Constitution with recommendations for amendments. So now I'm just going to talk a little bit about some early life things about Elbridge Gerry, anything that I can, kind of find. Elbridge Gerry was fearful that the federal government would have too much power over the states. Although he opposed it, he would serve in the U.S. House and in Congress from 1789 to 1793. Elbridge Gerry was similar to George Washington in that he was not in favor of political parties and supported ideas from both. He eventually did align himself with the Democratic-Republican Party. I told you about his early life. His parents had 11 children. Only 5 of them actually survived to adulthood. Shortly before turning 14, Elbridge Gerry was accepted into Harvard, and by the age of 18, he received a bachelor's degree, and by 21, he had a master's degree. He obviously worked after college in his father's merchant business. By the time of the American Revolution, Elbridge Gerry was one of the wealthiest men in New England. He was opposed to the various acts that the British passed in order to pay for the French and Indian War. During this time, he developed relationships with Samuel Adams, John Adams, and Mercy Otis Warren. In May of 1772, he was elected into the General Court of Massachusetts Bay Colony. He established a committee of correspondence in Marblehead and a hospital for smallpox inoculation. He left politics and then he re-entered it in 1774 after the Boston Port Act. His service was interrupted due to his father's ailing health, and after his father passed away, Elbridge Gerry was elected into the First Continental Congress, but he refused his appointment since he was still grieving the loss of his father. During the American Revolution, Gerry served in the Second Continental Congress and was an early supporter of independence from Britain. Throughout the war, he played a large role in financing the war, acquiring subsidies from Spain, sending ships to many of the ports on the American coast, and raising privateers to raid the British. Elbridge Gerry was a member of the Conway Cabal, a group of congressmen that were dissatisfied with the performance of George Washington. Later, he denied his membership and openly criticized one of Washington's critics, Thomas Mifflin. His involvement in the cabal is unclear. During the Constitutional Convention, Elbridge Gerry was an advocate for division of federal and state governments. He would be one of only 3 that voted against the Constitution. George Mason and Edmund Randolph were the others. Elbridge Gerry's vote against was rooted in his belief of a small federal government. Although he was opposed to Shays' Rebellion that took place in 1786 and 1787, the pro-constitutionalists wrote scathing articles about him, calling him a Shaycite. Gerry's main problem with the Constitution was the lack of a Bill of Rights. Elbridge Gerry was nominated to run for governor of Massachusetts, but lost to the popular Federalist John Hancock. By 1789, Gerry had recanted his opposition to the Constitution. Gerry never associated himself with a party until the 1800s. He supported what he believed to be good ideas regardless of the party. He was in favor of Alexander Hamilton's report on public credit and maintained a good relationship with Thomas Jefferson. He served in a diplomatic mission for John Adams, which led to the Federalists turning on him. After that event, he formally joined the Democratic-Republican Party. He was elected the governor of Massachusetts and served as vice president, as we know. That's just some early life stuff on Gerry, his early political career, about the Revolution. Pretty much it, for the most part. Let me see what else here I could read to you guys. Just briefly, too, about his wife and his marriage. Elbridge Gerry was convinced to rejoin the Confederation Congress in 1783 when the state legislature agreed to support his call for needed reforms. He served in that body until September of 1785, during which time it met in New York City. The following year, he married Anne Thompson, the daughter of a wealthy New York merchant who was 20 years his junior. His best man was his good friend, James Monroe. The couple, meaning Elbridge Gerry and Anne Thompson, had 10 children between 1787 and 1801, straining Anne's health. As I said, they had 10 children together between 1787 and 1801, and 3 of those children died young. Another thing about Elbridge Gerry and Anne Thompson, so some called her, Anne Thompson that is, the most beautiful woman in the United States. She caught, obviously, Elbridge Gerry's eye in New York, and the romance was apparently well underway by late 1785, and the two of them married on January 12th of 1786 at New York's Trinity Church. Anne Thompson, her husband Elbridge Gerry, was frequently concerned over her health, but was also frequently away. The family finances were troubled in the later years of her husband's life. Debts that his brother had incurred and Gerry had guaranteed were only paid off from the salary he received as Vice President of the United States, leaving his widow, Anne Thompson, with an estate that was rich in land and poor in cash. So, pretty interesting stuff. So, that's a little bit about his wife, Anne Thompson. She actually, she lived in New Haven, Connecticut. Believe it or not, she was supported by her children later in life. She was living with her son, James Thompson Gerry, the commander of the USS Albany, and at least 2 of her daughters at 17 Temple Court in New Haven, Connecticut. And Anne Thompson actually died in New Haven, Connecticut on March 17th of 1849. And she's buried in New Haven, Connecticut's Grove Street Cemetery. So just a little bit about Anne Thompson and Elbridge Gerry. That's obviously his wife. So there you go, guys. There's a bit about the early life and some fun facts about Elbridge Gerry and his early life. And that's going to do it. That's going to conclude this part 1 of our look at the 5th Vice President of the United States, Elbridge Gerry. Do have a little bit of bonus footage at the end here, so stay tuned for that. But other than that, that's going to wrap up this part 1 of Elbridge Gerry. Tomorrow, stay tuned for part 2, where we're going to take a look at the rest of his political career and, of course, his vice presidency, where he died in office. So we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to take a look at his gravesite and, where he's buried and all that good stuff. A lot of fun little interesting things to take a look at in part 2. So stay tuned for that tomorrow. Thanks, guys. Thanks for all the support. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much. I hope you're enjoying so far this vice presidential series, and we will keep it coming. And we will see you tomorrow for part 2. Thanks, guys. Hey guys, how's it going? TJ here with Dead History. And the reason I'm actually filming this in my car, and I'm going to explain to you guys what's going on. So, I kind of wanted to give you guys a little bit of a view and a little sneak peek into the life of somebody who drives all over creation to try to visit these different sites and locations and kind of give you guys bonus footage and that sort of thing. So, today is Tuesday, September 21st. I am actually trying to drive down to Washington, D.C. today to bring you some footage and some video footage of Elbridge Gerry's gravesite. I left my house about 9:30 in the morning, which would have put me in Washington, D.C., probably around 1 o'clock. It's about 3.5 hours, nothing too crazy. But just to give you guys an idea, let me turn you around. This is what I'm dealing with. As you see, the cars over here that you see zooming by, that is the New Jersey Turnpike, the northbound side. I am sitting in this parking lot on the New Jersey Turnpike southbound side because there's only 2 lanes, and both lanes are currently blocked with a very bad accident. Of course, first and foremost, we hope and we wish and we really, all our good thoughts go out to everybody that's involved in the accident. We hope everybody is okay. We hope there are no major injuries or fatalities. Hopefully not. So that's first and foremost. But you can kind of see how this really backs things up for me. Now that's a little fast, my clock. It's not actually 11:09. It's probably about a little after 11 a.m. now. And instead of getting down to Washington, D.C. around 1 o'clock, I'm probably not going to get there till well after 2 o'clock now. And then I'm going to hit traffic on my way home. So it really just backs things up. Today, actually, Tuesday, September 21st, I was going to go... look at that. Look at all that. You'll see the traffic going by on the northbound side at 80 miles an hour. I wish I was on that side around. So, I was actually going to go today to Boston and actually see some of Elbridge Gerry's stuff up there, like his home, his Elmwood estate there in Cambridge, Massachusetts. But it's like 5 hours for me, or 5.5 hours for me, one way. I try to do as much as I can, not only because I love to do it, don't get me wrong, but for you guys, to bring you guys some great bonus footage. But sometimes it just does not work out, unfortunately. So I'm going to try to still get to Washington, D.C. for you guys. But if it doesn't work out because of this terrible accident and what I'm sitting on here at the New Jersey Turnpike, I apologize. So a little look in the life of a grave hunter and a historical site seeker. This happens. 2 things you can't control: the weather and traffic. Can't control them. So no control over them. Can't get upset about them. It just happens. So thanks, guys. Just wanted to show you that. Hope everybody's having a wonderful day. And again, I hope everybody that's involved in this bad accident is okay. And everybody is going to be okay and walk away from this. Pretty scary stuff. So, all right, guys, thanks. Take care now. Hey, guys, how's it going? TJ here with Dead History, and welcome to our bonus footage for our 5th Vice President of the United States, Elbridge Gerry. As you just saw from that little video clip that I made, unfortunately, the bonus footage did not go as planned this week for Elbridge Gerry. My original plan was to go up to the Boston, Massachusetts area and see a couple of things regarding Elbridge Gerry. Then I realized that it was going to be like a 12-hour day round trip. That's just the driving part from my house in New Jersey up to Boston. I knew it was about 4.5 to 5 hours up there, but some of the spots are even further for me. So it was going to be like a 12-hour round trip drive just to get up there. And then, of course, the actual sightseeing itself. It was just going to be too long of a day. I didn't have time, to be honest with you, because we are currently in our fall baseball season here in New Jersey with Henry's baseball, and I am the head coach of the team. So we have practices twice a week. We have a game during one weeknight, and we have games on Saturdays. So we're quite busy. So it's real tough for me to kind of sneak away. Plus, on top of that, work in general. So then I tried to go to Washington, D.C. just to take some video shots of his gravesite, and that didn't work either, as you guys saw. I actually sat in that traffic, so everyone knows, for over 2 hours. Literally sat, like did not move, like people around me turned their cars off. Literally were parked on the New Jersey Turnpike. And finally we moved a little bit, and I was able to actually turn around. There was an opening in the divider of the highway, and I was able to turn around and head back north, back toward my home. So it didn't work out, unfortunately. But as I said, there's a couple things you cannot predict and a couple things you cannot control. And that is the weather, and that is traffic. Kind of is what it is. So there you go. So the way we're going to do this is I'm going to show you some pictures of things that I was going to go see as far as in Massachusetts go. Now, the pictures I'm going to show you are stock photos, obviously. These are not my photos. These are not photos I took. Nothing like that. These are stock photos. But at least you guys will be able to, see where I was and or where I was going, I should say. But all of these photos that you're going to see during this bonus footage here, these are all stock photos I found online, but these are the actual places I was going to go. So we're going to start off first and foremost with the gerrymander plaque, which is located in Boston. Just so everyone knows, it's actually future VP Elbridge Gerry was the Massachusetts governor who remapped electoral districts for political advantage. The salamander-shaped zone was plotted on this site, and that's why there is a plaque there. It is in Boston. It's on Arch Street, in Boston, Massachusetts. There's a plaque that's cemented to the outside of a building. It's kind of on Arch Street at the northeast corner of Arch and Summer Streets in Boston, Massachusetts. And here you go. This is what the plaque says. It actually says, the gerrymander. Near this site stood the home of State Senator Israel Thorndike, a merchant and privateer. During a visit here in 1812 by Governor Elbridge Gerry, an electoral district was oddly redrawn to provide advantage to the party in office. Shaped by political intent rather than any natural boundaries, its appearance resembled a salamander. A frustrated member of the opposition party called it a gerrymander, a term still in use today. So there you go. That's the plaque I was going to go see. Kind of the birthplace of the term gerrymander and the salamander shape. So take a look here. Here is a couple shots of that plaque. And from the gerrymander plaque in Boston, Massachusetts, we'll actually travel kind of pretty close by to Cambridge, Massachusetts, to take a look at Elmwood, which was the home of Elbridge Gerry. It's actually known as the Oliver Gerry Lowell House. It is a historic house and centerpiece of a National Historic Landmark District in Cambridge, Massachusetts. It is known for several prominent former residents, including Thomas Oliver, Royal Lieutenant Governor of Massachusetts, Elbridge Gerry, who obviously was vice president, and James Russell Lowell, who was a noted American writer, poet, and foreign diplomat. The house originally sat on a 100-acre estate. It's pretty cool. Beautiful place. It's located at 33 Elmwood Avenue in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which is, right next door to Boston. So it is a private residence. I believe it is a private residence. Maybe I'm wrong. I believe it is, though. But anyway, you're able to obviously see the home, and there's like a plaque. There's a little marker outside of the home. So yeah, so I will show you pictures of that. I was going to go visit that. I was not going to be able to go inside the home, of course, but I was at least going to see the outside of the home. But of course, that did not happen. So here is Elbridge Gerry's home in Cambridge, Massachusetts, known as Elmwood. Here you go. Take a look. So from the gerrymander plaque to his home, Elmwood, there in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and now we take a look at the actual Elbridge Gerry birthplace home up in Marblehead, Massachusetts. And this is kind of all the way kind of on the eastern coast, kind of on the east coast of Massachusetts, Marblehead. The Elbridge Gerry house is a historic house. It sits at 44 Washington Street in Marblehead, Massachusetts. Local lore holds that this house is a 1730 house that was the home of merchant Thomas Gerry and the place where statesman Elbridge Gerry was born in 1744. Stylistic analysis of the house, however, suggests that it is instead a late Georgian or early Federalist construction dating to 1790. The house is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. So, the controversy with this house is historians, and as I just read to you, it's probably not the home that he was born in. This was probably not the actual structure that he was born in. However, the home where he was born did sit on this site. Historians do believe and are pretty sure that the home that Elbridge Gerry was born in is not the home I'm going to show you. However, a different structure sat on this site at one point, and that is where he was born. So, we're basically, when you're at this site and when you're at this home, you're probably within 50 yards or so of where the actual home was and where he was born. Probably less than 50 yards. Probably more like 25 or 30 yards. So here you go. The Elbridge Gerry home in Marblehead, Massachusetts. One last thing I did want to mention, because my bonus footage got kind of messed up this week and I had to use stock photos for this stuff, I will be doing a very fun bonus footage video for all the vice presidents. Now listen, it doesn't mean I'm going to have bonus footage for every vice president, but what I mean is throughout the next 5 months or so that I'm going to be doing this vice president series, I will make it to different locations, even if it's not in their video. So if it's in their video, I won't show it again. But if, for example, this Elbridge Gerry stuff, if I get up to Massachusetts sometime in the next 4 or 5 months, which I probably will, I will go and take video and pictures myself of these places. And at the end of the vice presidential series, I will actually make a vice presidential bonus video. And I will throw all of this bonus footage in there that I didn't get to during their actual weekly series installment. So be on the lookout for that. Months from now, there will be a vice presidential bonus video that I'm going to make it up to you guys. I apologize very much. So here you go. The Elbridge Gerry house where, or close to where, he was born in Marblehead, Massachusetts. Enjoy.